The humid Manila night pressed in, thick with the scent of sampaguita and diesel fumes. Inside, the bar was a haven of conditioned air and low light, the clinking of glasses a soft counterpoint to the city's relentless hum. Leo leaned across the small table, his world narrowed to the warm glow of the candlelight on Maya's face. She laughed, a sound like a wind chime, and the easy, practiced charm he'd spent years cultivating felt sharper, more potent than ever. He was winning. "No, seriously," he said, his voice a low, conspiratorial murmur. "You can't just put ketchup on spaghetti. That's a crime against humanity, and my Italian grandmother." Maya covered her smile with a delicate hand. "It's sweet spaghetti," she corrected, her eyes sparkling. "It's a Filipino thing. You wouldn't understand." "Oh, I understand," Leo countered, placing his hand over hers on the cool, damp wood. Her skin was soft, her fingers didn't pull away. "I understand I need to save you from your national culinary crisis." He felt a familiar, triumphant warmth spread through his chest. This is what it was all about. The connection, the energy. He wasn't a tourist, he was an expat, a man of the world who got it, who could bridge cultures with a smile and a well-timed joke. He was in his late 20s, lean and full of stories, and a girl this beautiful, this vibrant, was the ultimate validation. That's when the door opened, letting in a fresh wave of city noise and a man who seemed to drain the energy from Leo's corner of the room. He was American, clearly, late 50s, maybe 60. A pastel polo shirt was stretched tight over a soft paunch, and his face had the weary, sun-beaten look of a man who had long ago traded ambition for comfort. He scanned the bar with a placid, proprietary air before his eyes settled, for a brief moment, on their table. Leo felt Maya's hand stiffen almost imperceptibly beneath his. The young man smirked to himself. The competition. He'd seen a dozen guys just like him, retired, lonely, leveraging a strong dollar for a last grasp at youth. It was a joke. What could that guy offer that he couldn't? He was the past. Leo was the future. Feeling a surge of territorial bravado, Leo tightened his grip on Maya's hand and leaned in closer, his voice dropping an octave. "Don't look now, but I think your dad's here to pick you up." Maya's smile didn't quite reach her eyes this time. She glanced toward the bar, where the older man had settled onto a stool, and gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of her head. "He's not my dad." "Even better," Leo whispered, raising his glass. "A rival. I love a good fight." He was on his stage now. He launched into his best story, an exaggerated tale of getting lost in the jungles of Palawan, making himself the hero of a small, thrilling adventure. He was funnier, louder, more alive. He was performing for her, for the bored bartender, for the ghost at the bar. Halfway through his monologue, a vibration on the table cut through his narrative. Maya's phone, which had been lying face down between them, lit up. Its screen cast a pale, intrusive blue light on their hands. It was their anchor, the silent third guest at the table. Leo saw his own reflection, distorted and over-animated, in the dark screen as she reached for it. He expected her to check the message, to offer an apology or an explanation. A jealous ex, maybe? A friend with late-night drama? He felt a pang of victory at the thought. Instead, she simply pressed the power button, plunging the table back into the intimate candlelight. She didn't look. She just silenced it, her lips pressed into a thin, unreadable line. She pushed the phone to the side, a small black mirror reflecting nothing. "Sorry," she said softly. "You were saying?" "Right," Leo said, his confidence surging back, redoubled. She had chosen him over the distraction. She was here, present, with him. He grinned, feeling the pull of an inevitable victory. He raised his glass to finally toast. Across the room, the older man nursed his beer, watching, waiting, as if he knew the punchline to a joke Leo hadn't even heard yet. The toast never happened. The moment hung in the air, the clink of glasses promised but undelivered, and Leo's grin felt suddenly stiff on his face. Maya's apology, though soft, had landed like a stone, disrupting the smooth current of his charm. He tried to restart the engine, to find the gear he'd been in just moments before, but the rhythm was gone. His stories of adventure, once so vibrant, now sounded like boasts in his own ears. "So, next weekend," he said, forcing a casual tone. "I was thinking we could get out of the city. I know a great little resort in Anilao. We could go diving. Have you ever been?" He was selling a future, a small slice of his own sun-drenched, carefree world. Maya's eyes flickered with something he couldn't name. Not excitement, not quite regret. "That sounds nice," she said, but her voice was a floor below his. "It's difficult for me to get away, though. I have family things." The phrase was a smooth, polished stone, offering no crack for him to get a purchase on. Her schedule, a concept he'd never considered. "Family things? I can help with family things," he offered gallantly, picturing himself charming a grandmother or arm-wrestling a protective brother. Her smile was thin, almost sad. "You don't have to worry about it." It wasn't a refusal so much as a dismissal. He wasn't being invited in. The door was being politely held shut. Across the room, the older man signaled the bartender, who began pouring a glass of white wine. A moment later, the server approached their table. "From the gentleman at the bar," he said, placing the wine in front of Maya. Leo bristled. A power play. A clumsy, oafish move from a bygone era. "You don't have to accept that," he said, his jaw tightening. But Maya was already nodding at the server. She half-turned and lifted the glass an inch in the man's direction. It wasn't a flirtatious gesture. It was an acknowledgement, a quiet confirmation of a pre-existing channel. The man inclined his head, his expression unchanged. Leo's confidence began to curdle into a sour mix of anger and confusion. He felt like he was playing chess while his opponent was simply moving pieces off the board. "What was that?" he asked, his voice sharper than he intended. "He's a friend," she said simply, turning back to him. Her gaze was direct, almost appraising, and for the first time, he felt like the one being interviewed. The phone on the table vibrated again. This time, she didn't ignore it. Her eyes darted down to the screen for a millisecond, just long enough to read a notification banner. Leo caught a flash of green and white, a logo that looked like a bird or a plane, before she swiped it away. An airline? "I have to go to the washroom," she said, rising gracefully. She didn't look at him as she walked away from the table, her path taking her not directly to the back, but on a route that skirted the long edge of the bar, bringing her momentarily close to the older man's stool. Leo watched, his heart thumping a slow, heavy beat, as she passed behind him without a word or a glance exchanged. And yet, the space between them felt charged, like a current had passed. He was alone, the hero of a story no one was listening to anymore. The candlelight, once a warm, intimate glow, now seemed to cast long, mocking shadows. His world, which had been narrowed to her beautiful face, suddenly expanded to include the whole, noisy, indifferent bar. He looked from her empty chair to the American at the bar, who was sipping his beer, his back to Leo, utterly unconcerned. The feeling of victory was gone, replaced by a cold, creeping doubt. He wasn't in a fight. He wasn't even a rival. He was just the entertainment. And the show, it seemed, was over. The wait stretched, each second a small, hard pellet of humiliation. When Maya returned, the performance was over. The soft, accommodating woman who had laughed at his jokes was gone, replaced by a polite stranger with a well-rehearsed exit strategy. Her purse was already on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Leo, I have to go," she said, her voice crisp and final. There was no room for negotiation in it. "My cousin is waiting." Your cousin? The word felt stupid in his mouth. I thought I could take you home. It's complicated, she said, and for the first time he heard the exhaustion beneath the phrase. It wasn't a brush off. It was a wall he had been talking to all night. This was it, the moment where he was supposed to protest, to lay on more charm, to insist. But the energy had evaporated. He just nodded, defeated. As she turned, her phone, now clutched in her hand, lit up one last time. This time, his angle was perfect. It wasn't a text. It was a notification banner, stark and clear against her background photo. A screenshot. He saw the name of a money transfer service and a confirmation number. Beneath it, a line of text. PHP 25,000 picked up by Maria Santos. Her mother's medicine, rent, a sibling's tuition. It didn't matter what specifically. It was a solved problem. It was logistics. The vibrant, charming girl he thought he was winning was a manager of her family's survival, and he wasn't even on the balance sheet. He was a pleasant activity, a happy hour, a story she might tell a friend tomorrow. He was never the prize. He was the entertainment before the real meeting began. Leah watched as she walked not to the exit, but to the bar. She didn't embrace the older man. She didn't even smile. She just stood beside him, and he slid a thin white envelope across the bar. She took it, tucked it into her purse, and for the first time that night, she looked at the man and gave a genuine, tired smile. It held no romance. It held relief. Then, together, they walked out into the humid Manila night, leaving Leo alone in the fabricated intimacy of the candlelight, his best stories turning to ash in his throat. He sat alone, the silence a deafening roar in the space where her laughter had been. The bartender, a ghost in his own right, glided over and cleared Maya's glass. "Another one, sir?" The question was a crossroad. Another drink? Another girl? Another night of selling stories she couldn't afford to buy? Leo stared into the dark, polished wood of the table. He saw his own reflection, faint and hollowed out by the sputtering candlelight. The lean, confident man was gone, replaced by a fool. He had spent the night performing, painting a picture of a carefree life, of diving trips and jokes about spaghetti. He was selling a fantasy. But her world wasn't a fantasy. It was a series of calculations. It was a ledger of expenses and remittances, and he had been written in the margins as entertainment. He finally understood the terrible, simple math. The older man wasn't his rival. He was Maya's partner, not in romance, but in a quiet, desperate business. He wasn't buying her love. He was underwriting her reality. In return, she gave him her time, a commodity she managed as carefully as the money he sent. Leo had never been part of the negotiation. He was just the complimentary drink before the meeting started. He pushed his chair back, the legs scraping against the floor. "No," he said, his voice raw. He threw a few bills on the table and walked out, leaving his own drink half finished. The humid air hit him like a physical blow. He had come to this country thinking he was a king, because he was young and charming and full of life. He finally realized that in the realest market of them all, life was just another liability. The only thing that mattered was the cost of living it.